Good afternoon. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. I am Lydia Morgan, Chief Operations Officer of the Jerusalem Institute of Justice. JIJ operates both domestically and internationally in order to accomplish our goals, pursue justice, and protect human rights in our region. JIJ's International Department dedicates considerable efforts and countless hours to bring justice to the voiceless and stand for Israel's interests and the truth. We do so by utilizing both legal and advocacy tools. Recently, JIJ's efforts have borne fruit on various platforms. Worth mentioning in this regard is the legal warfare we have conducted against the perpetrators of the terror organization Hamas in the International Criminal Court. Following the legal and evidentiary infrastructure we presented to it, the ICC announced the launching of a comprehensive criminal investigation against Hamas's leaders in Gaza for war crimes. Another recent success was an important decision by Belgian judicial authorities. They announced their intent to file a criminal indictment against a local police officer who released a blatantly antisemitic statement on his social media. This important decision was a result of our uncompromising battle against the alarming rise of antisemitism, this time in Belgium. Today we have some exciting news. Some of you may have read it in our e-newsletters. We are happy and proud to announce that the United Nations, the largest human rights platform in the world, has granted to the Jerusalem Institute of Justice the prestigious consultative status to the Economic and Social Council, also known as ECOSOC. Today, our session together is dedicated to getting a better understanding of what ECOSOC actually does, what are its goals and mandate, and what does JIJ's new status entail. We will then talk briefly about what JIJ intends to do with this new prestigious recognition. Joining me for today's conversation is Advocate Ori Morad, the head of JIJ's International Law and Public Diplomacy Department. Good afternoon, Ori.
Good afternoon, Leah, and thank you for having me here today.
So, Ori, let's start by explaining what is ECOSOC.
Yes, so ECOSOC is the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. It was established by the founding document of the United Nations, the UN Charter, as one of the 6 organs of the United Nations.
And how many member states are there in ECOSOC?
So, Chapter 10 of the Charter stipulates that the Council shall consist of 54 members elected by the General Assembly for a 3-year term.
Is Israel one of these members?
It's a good question. Israel was elected to ECOSOC for the first time in June of this year, with 153 countries supporting Israel's request.
Uri, you have mentioned 6 organs. What are the other 5?
Yeah, so the 5 other organs being the General Assembly, which is the main deliberative assembly where all UN member states meet, the Security Council, whose task is to maintain international peace and security, the UN Secretariat, which is the administrative body of the UN, the International Court of Justice, which is the legal organ of the UN that operates from The Hague and is responsible for resolving disputes between states. And then we have the United Nations Human Rights Council, which was founded by the General Assembly back in 2006 with the goal of promoting and protecting human rights.
So of these organs, what is ECOSOC's role?
So according to the Charter, ECOSOC is responsible for promoting higher standards of living and full employment, also responsible for identifying solutions to international economic and social and even health problems, and encouraging universal respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms.
It sounds like ECOSOC has a very broad mandate.
Indeed, Lydia. Just so we can grasp its importance and significance, ECOSOC's purview extends to over 70% of the human and financial resources of the entire UN system.
That is very comprehensive and a huge responsibility. How does ECOSOC attempt to accomplish its ambitious goals?
ECOSOC is the place where all the work is being done behind the scenes. The Council is the central platform for fostering debate and innovative thinking for both parliamentarians, academics, policymakers, businesses, and even non-governmental organizations, exactly like JIJ. ECOSOC is actually the gateway for UN partnership and participation by the rest of the world as well.
And how does ECOSOC work on a practical level?
So practically, the Council holds several short sessions and panel discussions with the participation of non-governmental stakeholders throughout the year, all in order to prepare for its 4-week substantive session, which take place each July. ECOSOC oversees and coordinates the work of a complex network of subsidiary bodies.
Tell us more about the types of subsidiary bodies and their functions.
The ECOSOC system includes 9 functional commissions, deliberative bodies whose role is to consider and make recommendations on issues in their respective areas of responsibility and expertise. We have 5 regional commissions and 15 specialized agencies. Some are policy-oriented and carry out the detailed analysis, while other bodies are more technical in their nature and help establish global norms and standards on a number of issues. These are in addition to expert commissions of both governmental experts and members serving in their personal capacity.
What does it mean? What is the significance that JIJ has obtained this special consultative status to ECOSOC?
So first and foremost, organizationally, I would say, it indicates that the hard work that JIJ is doing the past few years is noticed and well appreciated on a global level. Because we need to understand that thousands of NGOs worldwide seeks this significant status. Only a few succeed. Regarding the formation of the consultative status for non-governmental organizations, that was set in Article 71 of Chapter 10 of the UN Charter. According to Article 71, ECOSOC may make suitable arrangements for consultation with non-governmental organizations.
There are 3 different categories of consultative status. What is the difference between them?
Correct. ECOSOC Resolution 1996 on 31 defines 3 different categories, as you said. The first category is the general status, which is granted to NGOs that are concerned with the most of activities of the Council. The second category is the special status, granted to NGOs that specializes in one particular field. And the third category is the roster status, which is granted to organizations that do not fall within the first 2 categories, but the Council or the UN Secretary General considers that these NGOs can make occasional and useful contributions to the work of the Council or its subsidiary bodies.
And to say again, JIJ was granted special consultative status.
Yes, definitely. JIJ received this special consultative status for the work and significant contribution to the field of human rights.
What does this recognition by ECOSOC allow us to do as an organization?
So, receiving this recognition means that JIJ holds the capacity to influence the formulation of UN agenda and its positions, as well as the decisions made in its institutions. Consultative status gives JIJ the right to actively participate in the work of the UN, to present our views and deliver testimonies, We now have access to not only ECOSOC, but also to its many subsidiary bodies, the human rights mechanisms of the United Nations, as well as special events organized by the President of the General Assembly.
Uri, thank you. Now that we have a better understanding of what ECOSOC is and how it functions, I want us to talk briefly about JIJ's goals now that it has obtained this recognition.
So, the JIJ team sees this step as a real game changer, and equipped with this important position, JIJ intends to enhance its work and reach new global audiences. JIJ will strengthen its efforts for Israel and our fight against the injustices occurring in our region. To be more specific, we intend to work with relevant functions in order to formulate a more balanced policy, I would say, towards Israel. We intend to submit shadow reports dealing with various human rights violations in our region. We intend to enhance our fight against the bias and hypocrisy that characterizes the UN's policy towards Israel. And we also intend to attend international conferences and events and present written and even oral statements and organize side events as well. Yep.
Very exciting. Uri, you've mentioned the bias and hypocrisy that characterizes the UN's policy towards Israel. Can you give us an example?
Definitely. Perhaps the most blatant expression of the UN's attitude towards Israel is Agenda Item 7.
Please elaborate on this.
Yes, Agenda Item 7 lies at the heart of the UN Human Rights Council. Since its foundation in 2006, the Council, with its 47 member states, has convened 47 times in its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. Each regular session follows an order of the day, consists of 10 agenda items. The discrimination against Israel in the Human Rights Council is institutionalized within its agenda, while Agenda Item 4 refers to all human rights situations in the world. The Council dedicated the separate item, Item 7, as we mentioned, to the human rights situation in Palestine and other occupied Arab territories. That's how they call it. Item 7 is the only permanent agenda item that focuses on a sole country, on the only democracy in the Middle East, Israel. This singles out one country in a political, discriminatory, and unbalanced manner. This item represents systemic and institutional bias within the Human Rights Council. When the agenda was adopted in June 2007, then Secretary General Ban Ki-moon criticized the Council's decision to single out only one specific regional item, given the range of human rights violations occurring throughout the entire world. Furthermore, despite the agenda item's title being Human Rights Situation in Palestine and Other Occupied Arab Territories, its entire focus is on the State of Israel alone. No criticism is leveled at the terrorism group Hamas, which rules Gaza, or the Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank, for any human rights violations whatsoever.
Agenda Item 7 sounds like a very important issue for JIJ to deal with.
It is definitely a priority for us. We are already preparing our strategic plan to best tackle this important issue.
If those listening have followed us for any length of time, you know that at JIJ we frequently criticize the UN and its bias against Israel. JIJ now has an opportunity to promote change from the inside. We're ready to take on Agenda Item 7 and other weighty matters. We appreciate you joining us today. We hope we have provided some clarity as we have covered the role of ECOSOC and other UN bodies, as well as the impact regarding JIJ's new standing. Please email any questions to Uri at the email on the screen below. We thank you for your support and prayers as we continue to advance justice.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you for having me here today, and we hope all of you will join us for our next webinar.